Welcome back to another edition, our second edition of Political Breakfast for the week. So glad that you're joining us here on WABE. Our strategists are here, Brian Robinson and Tharon Johnson. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Earlier in the week, we talked about how you two were at the Rolling Stones concert, and you both were watching Door Knock. The headline says, Door Knock hit it out of the park over the weekend. And you two were pretty enthusiastic and happy about that.
We're happy for Keith Mason, who's a friend of both of ours. Of course, Keith was Zell Miller's chief of staff for a period of time in the governor's office, was counsel to President Clinton in the White House, part of that famous Mason family out of Gwinnett County. But he's one of the primary owners, as is, one of the minor owners is my former coworker, Ryan Teague, who was executive counsel for Governor Deal. Mm-hmm. So Tharon and I know some of these folks. So we were on the phone Saturday night. Can you believe this? I mean, I've never been able to watch a race and somebody I know is there in the owner's circle celebrating. It's pretty cool.
Well, I didn't know Teague was involved, but that makes sense for Teague. Teague has always got a little backdoor money play going on. But he's a great lawyer, right? I'm sure it's legal and above board. But no, shout out, Lisa, to Keith Mason particularly. He has been instrumental in the community. Actually, I was able to sit next to him at McKenna Long and Aldrich before they became Dentons. I learned so much from him in my early lobbying career in 2013. I mean, this guy, still a major player in politics, but he started telling us about these horses, right? And particularly Door Knock, because I put some money on Door Knock at the Kentucky Derby. We talked about, we went down there. So my wife and my mother-in-law put money on Mystic Dan and hit big. And so now just, shout out to Keith, and he'll tell you how much work it takes, the training and the feeding and keeping the horses healthy, and the jockeys and how they got to be on tune. And so, just big win for him, and he should definitely be celebrated.
What, the odds were 17-1? So that's correct. That's pretty phenomenal. Pretty phenomenal. Well, congratulations to everyone involved there. I wanted to quickly ask y'all about, over the weekend, the headline came out, Mayor Dickens wants MARTA to pause that controversial overhaul of the 5 Points MARTA station that was moving forward pretty quickly. I mean, the announcements came. It's going to happen in July. These are your alternatives. And now he wants the city to halt based on a review of some of the money and some other things going on with the project. I don't know. Were you all surprised by that at all, Brian?
I'm going to defer to Tharon a lot of this. He knows a lot more about what's going on with MARTA than I do. What I can speak to is the fact that this is a centerpiece for the city. It's going to be even more so when the Centennial Yards project kind of fills in the gulch there. I think as important and as central as it has been for decades, it will be even more so moving forward. And if you get out of a plane at Hartsfield and take MARTA in, and that's where you connect to go north or east or west out of Atlanta, it is not a good front doorstep for the city. If you get out and that's the first thing you see, it just looks dated and dirty and just ugly. And so I do hope that we'll eventually be able to get this done. It would do so much to the city to make that a better front door step than what we have now.
Yeah, Lisa, full disclosure, I do work for MARTA, and so I will do my best to be as objective as I can be, because I think that when we use the word controversial, I think that the enhancement of the 5 Point station is needed. I mean, you heard Brian, who I doubt don't take MARTA a whole lot unless there's some sporting events, right? B-Rob?
That's true. I was just there. My neighbor took me to see the Heart and Cheap Trick concert. Don't have to write with them. Yeah. And I was like, let's just take MARTA down that way we don't have to worry about, drinking and that kind of stuff. And it was great. It was great.
So you have a constituency base that's like B-Rob, right, who takes it, who's safe, and he and it cuts down congestion with traffic. He's a supporter of micromobility, right, when it makes sense. I don't want to get him too far to the left because, some of his Republicans start questioning.
I'm a supporter of not paying $65 for parking. That really offends me. It offends me.
So that's my segue, right, which is why this enhancement is needed. And just to remind our listeners, Lisa, this came out of a More MARTA initiative that was voted on by the residents of Fulton, DeKalb, and City of Atlanta, but particularly in this case, City of Atlanta. More MARTA project that is allocating funding to make significant enhancements to this 5 Points MARTA station. Now, What the mayor is saying is that, hey, let's look at this. Let's pause. I think he has some legitimate questions. But the first question is, they proposed, MARTA, that we would need to not shut down. So this whole notion that the 5-point station will be shut down, that's not true. It would be a little less operable than it is currently, and for safety concerns. And so they believe that it would take roughly maybe 16 to 18 months before the World Cup, before the World Cup comes, to really make sure that for safety reasons is to sort of make sure that it's temporarily in a construction phase that doesn't allow as much pedestrian participation as much as possible, right? And so then the second thing that I think that we want to clear up is that, riders will be able to use it, but they won't be able to use it as much as they would like to, because you just need to basically kind of shut it down to do these improvements. So then you become more reliant on bus services, right? So then I think that's another legitimate concern that the mayor's has. And so MARTA will answer that question. They will show that, hey, we'll be able to reroute a lot of these folks, a different constituency base other than me and Brian, who actually depend on MARTA every single day to get to and from the work, to pick their kids up, to get home. And then the third thing becomes an issue of funding, right? There was an audit that was done, and I think that MARTA is going to show some different numbers from the audit that the city produced about, where's the funding gap for this. So I just want our listeners to know that this is a legitimate concern of pause from the mayor, but it's not this adversarial relationship between this authority and the mayor, who, by the way, we remember this, Lisa, he was a transportation chair before he became mayor. So he's very well aware of the progress that MARTA has made. What could work
and what couldn't work, and just wants to make sure.
And cannot work. And so I think as we tape, there are meetings that are happening right now. And I think that MARTA and the mayor will be able to get on a better, same page moving forward. But I just wanted to push back a little bit on this narrative that it's going to be shut down, and that, look, MARTA has done this right. We remember, we all were worried about them closing down the airport stop, right? The airport station, which many of us use, and that we thought that was going to cause a huge debacle. It didn't.
Because a lot of employees were afraid it would for them.
The employees were very, very afraid of it. And so now if you go out there and you make that last stop before you travel, I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, lighting is amazing. It's been digitized. And so it's a great stop. Now, let me be fair, because I know some of our listeners like to say, oh, he's conflicted because he's their client. Now, that was a 6-week project versus an 18-month project. But the reason I bring up the airport is because I think they've developed a model of how to work with different entities involved to make sure that the downtown, potentially Central Atlanta Progress and other, B-Rob mentioned Centennial Yards, like all these folks that they're continuing to develop will be able to communicate with MARTA and have a plan going forward. So I think they're going to work something out. I think the mayor may get a little bit of what he wants, and I think MARTA will get a little bit of what they want, and I think they'll meet somewhere in the middle to create a timeline that the mayor feels comfortable with and that MARTA can implement. You
agree, Brian? Shaking your head?
Yeah.
Something major affects a lot of Atlantans, so yeah.
It's true. This is big dollars at stake too, hundreds of millions of dollars. And my experience over time has showed that whatever they tell you the price is going to be is actually going to be a lot more
by
the end of it.
With anything, right.
But anytime you're doing something underground in the middle of the city is going to be expensive. But I'm looking forward to seeing the new airport thing. My only complaint with the airport stop is that there are times when, like, the escalator going down from there to the airport terminal there's no down escalator, and like if there's one place in the world where you need the down escalator is at the airport, because you're rolling out your big damn bag for vacation, and like you got to crowd into this elevator that smells like urine. It's disgusting. I want that fixed.
Well, I'll definitely make some calls, B-Rob, to make sure that. But again, that's fair. I have experienced the escalator, but I would tell you this: why don't we ride to the airport together? Matter of fact, I know we won't be able to do it in recent trips that we have coming up. But check it out now. I definitely think the escalator is working. Good. They've cleaned the bathroom, and so listeners don't let B-Rob scare you to think that the elevators are not working. They're okay. Yeah. They're good at the airport.
Quickly,
just put a urinal in the elevator. Just cut out. Cut out the middle.
Oh my. Quickly, what do y'all think? Former State Senator Jen Jordan is advising Democrats to talk nonstop about contraception in 2024. Quickly, probably, ahead of November. What are your thoughts on that? A wise move? Not so wise move?
Former State Senator Jen Jordan has a role to play. And she has sort of been a state senator who's been very outspoken about women's reproductive rights. She tells a story about some of the tragic things that she endured personally growing up in South Georgia. And so I wasn't shocked at all that this state senator who ran unsuccessfully for statewide office sort of has taken on this very, very important issue about contraception and making sure that, she kind of spins it in a way to say, yeah, let's talk about contraception, but we also need to talk about abortion rights and reproductive freedom. And it's something that Democrats should not be afraid to talk about. The other thing is that look at who's saying it. Again, look at this woman's profile, a very, very fiery trial lawyer who B-Rob has kind of calmed down a little bit. But 2 years ago, when she was running against Chris Carr, who I need to have drinks with again, by the way, B-Rob.
We can do it.
He took me into the belly of the beast, to a place where a lot of Republicans hang out, and they were surprised to see us together. But the Attorney General and I had a good conversation. So B-Rob would say that, hey, Jen Jordan was on a lot of Republicans' radar. They were trying to figure out whether she was going to run for higher office like governor, lieutenant governor, so she ended up running for Attorney General. And so she utilized her skills as a lawyer and as a legislator to really highlight the issue around contraception and the issues around reproductive freedom. And also she talked about maternal mortality. It just did not get the play that it deserved at that time, Lisa, because she was running against a well-funded incumbent in Chris Carr. And Chris Carr did a really good job. I'm sure B-Rob had a lot to do with this to really kind of manage his debates with her. He never wanted her to go viral. He never wanted her to pick that one moment to get him to say something, and she said something. And so I'm happy to see that she's leading on this. I'm happy to see that she is a white woman from South Georgia talking about this very important issue. And then lastly, this is what Democrats need to be doing in Georgia. All right. We got a lot of things to run on. We got 2 U.S. senators who are Democrats. We got a congressional delegation that's just doing good things. And we also have local Democrats who are running counties and cities. And so I think that what I like about it is that the messaging is happening early. Like, we're not talking about this, a month out from the election. And so I think that she's caught fire. What she continues to do with this I've had to wait and see, but I think it's a very, very important issue that Democrats need to talk about.
I do want to slightly correct something there. Tharon is right that Jen is from South Georgia in the sense that she grew up in Dodge County, Eastman, Georgia. But I don't want to leave listeners with the impression that she is a South Georgia Democrat. She's from Metro Atlanta. She's done very well in life. She lives in a very fancy neighborhood in Metro Atlanta. So I don't want to oversell she's this rural Democrat speaking on this. I hope Democrats take that advice because I don't think it's very good advice. If Democrats are talking about contraception and those issues and Republicans are talking about inflation and the economy and immigration, Republicans are going to win this race. And I know that this isn't all black and white, but her words were, talk about this all the time. This needs to be a top issue. And the fact is, for people for whom it is the top issue, they do want to hear about it. But those voters are already identified as Republican or Democrat. They're not swing voters. Now, and they don't need to be energized to go vote against Donald Trump, right? They're going to go vote. If that's your number one issue, you're going to show up and you're going to vote Democrat. So if Democrats are speaking to that group of folks, I don't think they're getting very far. I think it's bad strategy. And Republicans need to keep doing what we're doing, talking about inflation, the cost of living, the inability of Gen Z to get their starter home because of interest rates, the crisis at the border, uncontrolled immigration, where even Democrats like Senator Ossoff are having to speak out and going, hey, we're letting potential terrorists in here. We don't know who these people are. This is a national security concern. So, I hope Democrats take Jen Jordan's advice because I don't think it's winning advice.
Tharon, why put it out there if it's not going to work?
Well, I think I haven't talked to the former state senator, so I'll just kind of do my best to sort of think what she's probably thinking. It's 2 reasons. One, Democrats feel like during the gubernatorial election in 2022, we saw momentum in other states, and it was brought up in Georgia, and it was around abortion rights, and we had just saw constitutional amendments happen, and there was money put out there to talk about it, but there are many Democrats that felt like more people could have said more about it. The second reason I think that she's saying it is because she's not saying that this is the only issue that Democrats should be talking about. What she said specifically is that you need to make sure you mention it every time you talk. And so what I think that she's doing in a very trial lawyer type of way, and I will be right, I'm sure she's going to push back on you about her not being from South Georgia. I know y'all are close.
She's from there. She doesn't.
Yeah, from there. Yeah.
It's been a while.
She definitely got that little Southern accent.
Yeah, she's not going to forget her roots.
But there you go. Success shaming.
But her kids don't.
He's success shaming us again, Lisa. He don't think Democrats can be from a rural part of Georgia, make some money, and live in a good neighborhood, and our kids don't sound like they're from the party. Now all of a sudden that's a bad thing. No, I know y'all are friends. I'm sure y'all are gonna joke about it.
My daughter doesn't talk like me either.
Well, that's true, and that's called generational transformation that we all doing. But no, look, Lisa, I would say this: it's not the only issue that she's saying we should talk about. It should be one of the important issues that we highlight. And I think that knowing her, she's a data-driven politician, former politician. So I'm sure there's some data. I'm sure there's some conversations that she's had, and I guarantee you this. If Republicans think it's such a bad idea, and Brian is going to advise this, I guarantee you will not see any Republicans going out here challenging her on it. Why? Because they know that if you go to battle with a Jen Jordan, if you try to counterpunch her, she is ready. She's one of the best debaters. And so you'll see them kind of leave her alone for a little bit. Now she's got to stay at it because she can't just come out and have a press conference and say what she said and then disappear. I think the way that I know her, the people around her, there's got to be some polling. There's got to be some conversations. There's got to just, her as a woman, I've got to feel like, now is my time to speak up. And I think she's also setting the stage for sort of the prioritization of issues that will be discussed in Georgia.
I want to fill in here that I do respect Jen Jordan's intellect and her capacity as a debater. In 2019, when the heartbeat bill passed, I advised the Republican senators that morning, when Jen gets up and talks, don't keep her up there in the podium. Don't ask her a bunch of questions. Don't give her a platform. Let her say her bit and then sit down, because she's really good and she is furthering her cause if she is talking about it. So I do come from a place of tremendous respect. What Republicans can't do here is let Democrats use the word contraception, because that is a misnomer here. It is intentionally misleading and obtuse, as if this is 1950s Ireland and we're trying to, decriminalize condoms and the pill. That's absurd. Republicans strongly.
We can make the case. Yeah.
Well, I think what she's really talking about, I assume, what kind of digging in is like this, getting to the abortion pills, and we can't let Democrats make that quote unquote contraception and use that broad term for something very specific. If we want to have a debate on the abortion pill, which is, by the way, that's coming. That debate is coming down the pike. I don't think it's going to be immediate, and I don't think it's going to be widespread. I think Republicans right now, they've succeeded in getting pro-life laws passed in red states across the country, including ours. I think they're willing to take a bit of a look and see to see how the politics of it play out, let it settle in a little bit. But for now, I don't think anybody wants to see massive change, because it could be too much at once. It's the same argument that I made against Democrats when they started doing all this trans stuff. They were pushing way too far, way too fast, and there was going to be a cultural backlash to it. And we've seen that develop. This stuff has got to be taken bit by bit, and that's how democracy works. Republicans are wise they've gotten a lot of what they want on this issue. Take a pause on it. Let Democrats, if Democrats go out there and say that Republicans are against contraception, they're not going to be believed. And when you say things that people don't believe, you are wasting time, resources, and campaign money.
I think that Jen Jordan is onto something, because I just listen and watch Brian trying to defend this, right? And I'm not attacking him personally. Mark my word, this conversation around contraception, abortion pill, reproductive rights will be a highlight of the presidential debate in Atlanta later this month. I guarantee you, because if Joe Biden is going to make way with these women voters and men now and families that have been, sort of very concerned about some of the right wing attacks by the Republican to basically attack women's right to choose, to tell them what they can and cannot do with their bodies, to put in these very, very radical pieces of legislation and laws all across the country. If the Biden campaign is smart, they'll listen to what former State Senator Jen Jordan is saying, and he can remix it and repackage it in a different way, because it's different from a woman senator versus a man. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. I mean, this is politics. But just stay tuned. This will be a major issue, I believe, either going into that debate or after the debate, or definitely coming out. So we'll start talking about this more come in the beginning of July.
It's heating up. Yeah, well, a few months to go before that all-important November election. Thanks, guys, for chiming in as usual, and hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll do it again next week.
Thank y'all so much. That was a great little segment there.
It was good. Yeah. Again, Jen, she needs to send us an invoice. We mentioned her name on our podcast. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you later.